Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another Fear Street book review. It's been a while, but I'm happy to make one because when I make Fear Street reviews, normally it's for a book that I really loved or a book that I think is trash. And that was the mindset I made when I created Fear Street Shorts. All the ones I just don't care to talk about will be left there, but the ones I do care to talk about will be put into full reviews. And I found myself really loving this one, and I have a lot to say about it. It comes from the new Fear Street line of books, and it's called Scream, Jennifer, Scream. Now, I don't know if I've been on a luck streak, but the past four young adult R.L. Stine books I've read have all been really great in a lot of ways. Minus the first one, not so much, but these past three have been awesome. And this book, in case you didn't know, this book right here was going to be the plot of the 90s Fear Street movie that was supposed to come out around 1998, 1999, 2000, around that range. But speculation seems to think that Columbine, the tragedy, the mass shooting of that school, it's very historic. If you don't know about it, you can find information on it on the web, and there's documentaries and stuff. That supposedly, in theory, might have affected this movie getting made. And after reading this book, I can totally see why. This is one of the darkest books that I've read associated with R.L. Stine's name. Now, Fear Street is known to have some ghostwriters in it. And after reading this one, I'm not quite convinced Stine wrote this. Maybe he did some outlining. Maybe he did the middle and the skeleton was done by a ghostwriter. I don't know what it is about this. It just doesn't feel like Stine's writing. But that doesn't shortchange the quality of this one. Whoever wrote this book, Stine or ghostwriter, I think did a very great job with this. This is one of those commentaries that you can find. I'm sure there's a lot of them with deeper themes in the Fear Street series. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a newbie at this series, but I was taken aback by how thematic this story was and how it all ties together. And it's almost like a reflection or an inflection on peer pressure at the heart of it, and how dumb it all feels. Especially by the end of the story, I think you can really gauge and sense what that meant, especially if you've read the ending. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. If you have not checked out Scream, Jennifer, Scream, I know this is in the pricier new Fear Street line. And to me, Trapped, which was the final book of Fear Street, that bled into the new Fear Street line that began with the Stepbrother. I think the Stepbrother was originally going to be the final Fear Street book. This probably continued the dark train that started with Trapped. So if you're curious about the price of admission for this one, I would say it's worth it because while it does have some flaws, this one got under my skin a little bit and made me think a lot. And that's important, especially with a YA novel, in my opinion. So yeah, go check this out if you haven't. So let's get into the plot overview without giving too much away. So the story involves a group of 5 kids and then a secondary character known as Jennifer. The 5 kids are Shelly, Mayra, Dell, Liam, and Danny. And they're going to be the main purveyors of the story here. But the main character that you need to focus on, because this book is told in third person, is Shelly. And Shelly is this girl named Jennifer's best friend. And Shelly, she's trying to enjoy a nice Friday night on their school's winter break. All of her peers just got done that day taking a test, which is a college placement test to get into schools. And they're all just chatting around, drinking some sodas at this guy named Danny, or I think Liam's house, just chilling back. And Jennifer is in the bathroom getting sick, presumably. She's not feeling too well. And there seems to be some, talk about that these kids are all confident that they did very well in this college placement test. And it turns out that they all cheated, because when Jennifer comes back from the bathroom, she pretty much reveals to us as the audience that all 6 of them cheated on their college placement tests by buying an answer sheet on the internet, which I guess for its time was kind of unknown. And back in 1998, when this book released, it would have been kind of a new idea to throw into a story, which is kind of neat. But they bought these answers, and everybody seems to be fine with the fact that they cheated in their performance because they're all talking about how they're going to get into their dream schools. I think one of the characters, Liam or Danny, they all kind of blend, the guy characters do for me. But one of them wants to get into an Ivy League school. One of them just wants to get out of Shady Side. One of them has aspirations to go to Stanford specifically for like technology and stuff. And the girls, Mayra wants to, be able to go to the whatever school she wants to go to because she has options with her placement test. And then, of course, Shelly and Jennifer's aspirations is to go to the same school, but I don't think they ever talked about what school they want to go to. But that's beyond the point. But Jennifer is the only one in the group that's had a change of heart, and her conscience has weighed heavily on her, and she's come to the decision, and she doesn't seem like she's going to back down from this, that she's going to confess once winter break is over to the principal that they all cheated on the college placement test, and the kids freak out. The kids are like, "You're going to ruin our futures. Why can't you just rat yourself out? Why do you got to drag everybody else into this?" And Jennifer's like, "Because it's not the truth, and I have to do what's right to appease my conscience." So the kids start to freak out. They try to pressure her to not go and tell, but she gets uncomfortable and tries to leave. And before she leaves, after a sketchy altercation with this guy named Liam, there's some comments made saying, "What are you going to do to keep me quiet? Kill me?" And then she leaves and drives off. But the remaining 5 are there, and they start contemplating murder. Now, the main character, Shelly, is Jennifer's best friend. And we learn early on in the story through her sharing some, I guess, mild monologue here, that she wears this necklace that she's had for many years because it resembles her friendship with Jennifer. And it's this really cheap, like, I guess, a coin machine locket that she has. That she's worn for many years, has never taken it off because she values that friendship more and more. But because Jennifer is willing to throw her under the bus and ruin her future, she starts to kind of question Jennifer's friendship. So she's reluctantly going along with this because she's under the assumption that they are dead serious to kill Jennifer. And if she doesn't get along with it, she might be targeted for death because she's going to be considered in the same camp as Jennifer for trying to stick up for her. So Shelly reluctantly goes along with this plan, and the kids all decide that nobody really wants to go through with killing Jennifer, but they have to figure out 2 things: who's going to do it and how to stage an accident. So they come up with this idea after they draw random names, and it's decided to be Danny. And Danny is the ex-boyfriend of Jennifer, but they still hang out and are kind of cordial with each other, but Jennifer has had a bad falling out with him, and he's like, "Well, it might be kind of tough for me to find something to stage, but I do know that she works at the mall," and he reveals that she goes out back where it's dimly lit, and there's a long stretch of road, go out to the parking lot, and maybe I can hit her with my car and kill her with my vehicle, stage it like an accident, and if it gets traced back to me, I could be like somebody stole my car or something. And he tries to think through the plan. And he's like, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And everybody's going to meet up at this location to see, to talk about it and go from there." So Shelly is mortified, but she can't really do anything about it. And she knows that her friend's pretty much marked for death. So the next day comes and goes. Mayra, Liam, Dell, and Shelly all meet up at this house to wait for Danny to call and show up after he's done the deed at the mall. But time elapses and they don't hear anything back from him, so they get this idea to go to the mall to investigate, and they see police cars in the back of the building. And when they go to investigate, they see the car that belongs to Danny has crashed into a pole, and looks like there's forensic tape everywhere. But more importantly, they see that Jennifer's alive, and she has blood all over her shirt, and they're like, "Okay, well, this went south very quickly. Jennifer's still alive, but what happened to Danny?" And they discover that Danny died in a grisly car crash into a light post out in the parking lot. And when Shelly looks over at Jennifer, Jennifer stares at her, but in like a blank stare. like she might know something's up. And for the rest of the read, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of teases that Jennifer might know something about this plan, that just so happened to be her ex-boyfriend in a car. And there's payoff later with that, but we'll get into that in a minute. So this takes the kids back a little bit, and they're like, okay, well, Jennifer's alive, and they all don't have the stones to kind of confront her. They just lost their friend, and there's really no time to grieve. There's, mind you, all the events in this book take place over the matter of a couple of days, so you got to think the turnaround time to get a body exhumed and set up a funeral and viewing, that stuff is mulled over. So if you're expecting more realism stuff like that, don't expect it here. But anyway, so a day or two goes by, and they have this idea to go confront Jennifer because she works on a play as like a play hand. She creates sets for the school, and they think that she might be up there, so they're going to go try to see what's up with her, maybe try to talk with her to see if she might know anything. And then they send Dell, or they pick Dell to go and try to handle the situation. But what happens to Dell is, while they're up in this part of the school that's kind of old and rickety, there's a tragic fall, and he falls out of a window, and basically he doesn't die. He's pretty much put on life support and put in the hospital for the rest of the book. And it might be an accident, but they start to think that maybe, just maybe, Jennifer is behind this, because Jennifer was there, and Jennifer told the police when they came, oh, there was a tragic fall, and it's sad. And she looks over at the kids in kind of a weird way, and that strikes Shelley back, and she's like, okay, well, something might be wrong. Well, very soon after that, the three of them, the remaining three, Liam, Mayra, and Shelley, are all hanging out, and Jennifer shows up. And this is the point of the book in the mid portion that a huge plot twist happens. And it may or may not involve that Jennifer knows what happened and has pieced together this plan that they were trying to kill her with Danny's car. And what happened to Dell was no accident. And she pretty much drops a bombshell on them about what's going to happen to them. And let's just insinuate that they're going to be targeted for murder by Jennifer. So it gets very weird, right? And you can tell that the kids feel guilty for this, but they have no other option now. They're like, okay, she's after us, so now we have to be after her. It's do or die. If we don't go after her, she's just going to kill us. But if we don't kill her, she's still going to go through and tell on us, and it's going to still ruin our future. So they're pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they have to keep going. So they do another drawing because they realize that they have to stage another accident to take care of her. There's no other choice here. It's not a dumb decision for those of you out there that might think so. It's just something they have to do now. So Shelley's like, I really don't want to be a part of this, but I feel so bad at this point. I've lost a friend, and what happened to Dell was awful. And now we have to go through with trying to kill my best friend again. So Liam comes up with this plan to stage an accident on this bridge in the north part of Shadyside, and Mayra is chosen as the delegate to carry out the murder, to stage it like an accident. But this time they're going to be there for backup, and they have this whole elaborate plan that once they're on the bridge, they're going to come out of nowhere and surprise them. Well, fast forward to the event of the bridge. Liam picks up Shelley in his Jeep, and they go up and park behind some pine trees to set up for everything. But they encounter police and a man walking his dog at the bottom of this bridge. It's a pretty good fall from below, and there's cop lights on, and they're like, oh crap, what's happened now? And sure enough, something grisly happened to Mayra, where the police now think that she might have jumped and committed suicide because there was no evidence of somebody else being on the bridge. And there's a realization, right, where Shelley, after the event, she's home alone, and she's watching the news, and the news seem to have pieced together that they think it's a suicide because there was a note left on Mayra's laptop saying, I cheated on the test. I can't leave. I can't live with myself anymore. So it seems like a suicide note. And this starts to make Shelley question if what happened to Mayra was actually, her best friend's doing. She's like still trying to give her friend the benefit of the doubt. But Liam calls her and says, all right, what happened to Leah? You saw it on the news. I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to kill her. It comes to this point where this is where at the climax, Liam hangs up the phone and tries to go find where Jennifer is to finish her off. And Shelley's like, well, I got to go stop Liam because I don't want my best friend to die. So she tries to find him. She goes over to Jennifer's house, and Jennifer's mom reveals a potential hint of where she could be. So she's back at the school, presumably working on this, play stuff. And when she gets there, she realizes something grisly might have happened to Liam, and she's mortified. And then you get this huge plot twist. I'm not going to go any further than this because I'll spoil the rest. But you get this huge plot twist behind what's actually been going on with Jennifer, and you get this huge plot twist about what's going to happen to Shelley. And then the ending is one of those things, it ends on a note where it kind of symbolizes that all of this book could have been preventable if they just weren't so impetuous and they decided to wait out the panic, which is a very somber way to end such a dark book, but that's essentially what Scream Jennifer Scream is. Okay, so for this book being the template for the long lost Fear Street movie of the 90s, this was the book they were going to go with. I can totally see why they would have went with this. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if this is a huge swing or not. I might be totally wrong, and I probably am. But I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if Jennifer's Body, a movie from like 2010 or 2009, somewhere around that ballpark, took elements from this unused script for this movie. Because I have a feeling that the script was made, but it was never made into anything. At least they were working on it. I wouldn't be shocked if some of the stuff from this script was turned into Jennifer's Body. I'm sure there could be some odd coincidences, but there is eerie similarities to Jennifer's Body in this book involving the girls in question named Jennifer. That's all I'm saying. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah, like I said, I could totally see why they would pick this story. Off the bat, Shelley, even though we get a third-person story, her relationship with Jennifer is definitely the heartbeat of this whole book, because you totally see her struggle going against the majority grain and then doing what's right and what's in her gut. And like I said, this book is pretty much a masterful take on peer pressure, and it's pretty much an inflection on that. It kind of inverts the tropes with peer pressure, putting the kids into something very, very dangerous, very, very dark and sinister, and gets them wrapped up in this whole situation that they could have avoided, but they're now in too deep and they have to keep pushing forward. And she struggles with keeping with the majority as time goes on in the story, because she knows that she's gotten herself in too deep. And it's also kind of questioning the morality of cheating to get ahead. And Jennifer's there as the conscience of the story, and how, if you look at it from a metaphorical way, you can look at from this perspective that the other 5 teens were fighting their conscience, was fighting what is right the whole book, and then they just had to learn the harsh way of, when you don't do the right thing, karma's like a boomerang, is going to come back and bite you. So I can get that. It's a very deep story, and Shelley's experience is harrowing as a result, and I think it definitely provides a lot of gas and fuel for this entire book. And her relationship with Jennifer is very touching, and it feels realistic to how she would feel in the situation. If I had to imagine myself in a similar situation, I would be torn if I was in her shoes. So I could totally get her perspective, and she's definitely relatable on that front. And there's some shocking stuff in this book, even though some things happen off screen, and I'll mention that in my negatives, some of my only few negatives with the book. But some of the deaths the way they're described are absolutely brutal in like the accidental way. It has this like Final Destination vibe where you get accident deaths, which is kind of a neat trick, but the off page stuff just really bothers me, and I'll mention that in the negatives, like I said. But yeah, good stuff, good gore descriptions and stuff. I was really taken back by that, and this is such a thought-provoking story, all said and done. I mean, when we're dealing with the character decisions from the main group of the 5 teenagers, you can totally see that they don't want to go through with this. They don't want to be put in a situation where they have to kill Jennifer, but because they're so torn between their future and in the present, it kind of makes me think how melodramatic teenagers are inherently, because everything is so do or die with especially young adult teenagers. It's just woe is me is everything, and they seem to think that getting bad college placement exams won't immediately put them in college, when all you have to do is go to community college and work your way up through the school ladder. I mean, there's other alternatives, but they don't see the alternatives. They only see things in black and white because they're so young. They don't have much life experience. And like I said, that feeds into the realism of the story. And what I think really makes this work as a whole is that these kids, they go through this peer pressure event already. They're all buying the placement exam cheat sheet, and they all use it. And they all think they won, but they have a kink in the chain, and then they have to go through the whole peer pressure thing again. And it puts them in a situation where they have to kind of reflect, and how that ties into them planning to kill Jennifer. They realize what they did was bad, but it's too late, and they have to do it to protect their own skin. And it makes you think in like a way where, it's kind of similar to if you're familiar with like Walking Dead. There's an episode involving Carol, one of the main characters from that show, having to put down a liability, right? Which is one of the girls she's kind of taken in as a foster kid, or like her own, adopted kid per se. But the liability there is that she's a loose cannon. She's going to ruin the plan and the safety of others, and the well-being of others, or the future of survival. So she has to make a call and do something really saddening. And that's why I think this book resonates the way it does, because you can tell none of these teenagers want to do it, but they have to do it, and they have to dip into that evil side and evil nature of themselves. And the revenge aspect from Jennifer in this story that you get is kind of satisfying, because all these people get their comeuppance, but at the same time, you get the sense that Jennifer realizes that she didn't want any of this to happen either. Especially when you hear a monologue near the end. She didn't want to have to do this, but they did it and went too far, and now she has to get her revenge. And that ties into the ending as well. The whole message of the book is that if they just would have waited a few days, because they're on winter break, they have 2 weeks off, and maybe just wait a whole week, and they get some more information about the placement test scores, all of this could have been avoided. And that's the tragedy of it. It's an actual tragedy, what happened in this book. And I think that's a beautiful artistic way of sharing a story, especially of this topic and of this nature. It's just a very well put together idea. And yeah, powerful climax. It was very tense. And it was a page gripper, especially after that middle reveal. You had to figure out what was going to happen next. It's something so electric with that. One of the best reveals I've seen in something horror in a while. But I do have some mild negatives here. And the first negative, I've already brought this up. That is the off-screen stuff. The off-screen deaths, come on. Why can't we have them on screen? I mean, Trapped had a bunch of on-screen or on-page deaths in that book, and that was some of the best aspects to it. It made it so brutal. This book could have been way brutal if it wanted to be. But it just did too much off-screen stuff for my liking. And that was a mild nitpick I have. And my other negative I have, which is more of a nitpick, but this is actually the more stronger one here, is the ending itself. To me, I totally get the message that it's sending. I've already shared it. All of this could have been avoided if they just would have waited. And that's why this book is a tragedy. And it's beautiful in that way. But I don't think it was quite handled appropriately here, because I guess the way it was delivered in the ending. There's no added perspective of how whoever is there at the ending, I'm not going to spoil who lives and who dies, how they feel about it. There's nothing there to kind of insinuate that. And that's why it just feels mishandled slightly. I kind of wish there was more perspective on whoever lives by the ending to share their perspective of this news about the test results and stuff, and how that weighs into the rest of the story in like a recontextualization kind of way. But it wasn't that bad all said and done. It just needed a little more there to be a little more poignant and perfect. But other than that, I thought this book was great. Honestly, if you, like I said, if you have not checked out Scream, Jennifer Scream, one, you should definitely read this. I've already said it twice now, because this was going to be the book of the 90s Fear Street movie. And the second thing is, it's going to make you think, it's going to disturb you, and it's going to entertain you. I can hard stamp approve that. So from a 0 to 5 star basis, even though this is not quite of a perfect book like Trapped, this is still an A tier. I'd probably give this, on a young adult book scale, because I don't do exact points for these. I'd probably give this maybe like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Very exceptional book. Definitely a keeper in my collection, and one I will definitely recommend to all my friends out there who are not into Fear Street as much, but I want to get them into it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Scream, Jennifer Scream. Let me know down in the comment section if you've read this book. Do you love this or do you hate this? I'm dying to know. And I'll see you next time.